fouls that have been called on the Lakers during the series. Lakers head coach J.J. Redick shared his thoughts on the officiating through the first 2 games of the West semis.
JJ, you got a technical in the first half. Multiple players had really long, extended conversations with refs. What was sort of at the core of those frustrations tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I sarcastically said the other day they were the most disruptive team without fouling. I mean, they have a few guys that foul on every possession, and all the good defenses do. You know, SGA gets like I don't even know, a touch foul, I guess, on the drive. There was a stretch where 4 straight possessions, our guys got absolutely clobbered trying to make an entry pass to Jackson, and Jalen Williams is grabbing his jersey with both arms. That's a turn. Like, they're hard enough to play. They're hard enough to play. You've got to be able to just call it if they foul, and they do foul.
Along those lines, I mean, LeBron has, I think, taken 5 free throws here in 2 games. What have you, I mean, have you seen him be like attacking and downhill, and are you surprised he hasn't been able to get to the line more?
Well, he gets clobbered on that one, you know, with Jalen Williams coming over trying to block the shot when he spun baseline on Dort. That was in that stretch as well. LeBron has the worst whistle of any star player I've ever seen. I mean, I've been with him 2 years now. You know, there's, again, the smaller guys, because they can be theatric, they typically draw more fouls, and the bigger players that are, you know, built like LeBron, it's hard for them. But he gets clobbered, and he got clobbered again tonight a bunch. But that's not like a new thing. That's not specific to this crew or, you know, this series. He gets fouled a lot. That doesn't happen. I mean, guy gets hit on the head more than any player I've seen on drives, and it rarely gets called. So.
J.J. Redick frustrated might be an understatement, but what do we make of his comments about the officiating and LeBron James having the worst whistle that he's ever seen, and a guy that he's coached so far in his young career?
I can see why it gets frustrating. I mean, as a player I was a physical player. I was somebody who seeked out the contact. And a lot of times I used to get frustrated thinking that I was getting fouled and they wasn't calling it. That's just the nature of the game. For LeBron, he's big, he's strong, he's active, he's fast, and you don't know what's the fine line, right, between a foul or him presenting the foul. So that's one thing. Also, another thing, OKC is a very, very, very good defensive team. And when you talk about not creating fouls, they don't foul. They don't create fouls. On paper, they don't create fouls. This is what type of team they are. So when you have a team like that going up against an offense who's trying to do everything that they can do, LeBron and JJ, we spoke about this, Mac, they're doing an incredible job of just strategizing the game planning. They just don't have enough right now for OKC. OKC understands we can foul, we can play aggressive. They're not going to call it the whole game. If they call it early, they might not call it late. They're going to play the same way. So it's frustrating for, you know, the Lakers, again, who's trying everything and throwing everything at OKC and feel like they're not getting the calls.
It's not much that I could say. There's a comment that you made off camera that I'll let you say, but you said it's their turn. But I'll let you elaborate more on that. But I agree. This is a very good defensive team with the hit-first mindset. And they make sure they touch the players. They make sure no easy drives. And that comes with it. And when you've built that all season long, the referees kind of understand that. Now, a foul is a foul, and I agree with JJ on that. And some calls that, you know, they don't get, they feel like, I think that's the frustration, is that calls that someone like Shea, like he said, that is getting, LeBron's not getting, that's not even close to that type of foul. So, yeah, I mean, but hey, but that's the passion, and that's the passion of JJ too. He's a former player. He's very passionate. He'll say what he has to say, and he'll do whatever. You know, he's the player's coach. He'll do whatever he needs to do to get his point across. But like, it's just, you know, we played against some superstars like Kobe. Yeah. You know, MJ understood what they can get away with. Yeah. And they know how far to go before it becomes blatant.
So, OKC, I think, is a very physical defensive team, and you alluded to it. I think what they do, they establish themselves first, right out the gates, on how they want to play, and that's being physical. And I think you, as a referee, you understand that this is how they play. This is their identity, and you can't call all the fouls. But when you're the champs, you get
A little bit more.
when you're the champs, you get a little bit more leeway. And this has been going on for such a long time. Go back to Shaq. Like, Shaq was like LeBron. I felt like if somebody that size, that aggressive, should be shooting 12 to 15 free throws a night, right? That is a given because of the style of play. Felt like Melo was a guy that should be at the top of leading in free throw shooting because of how they play.
I played with Dwight, the same thing.
Right.
That was our frustration. We felt every time he got the ball in the paint, he was probably getting
Technically
fouled.
fouled.
Yes.
Yeah. So you have
Whether
to
or not it's
decipher
getting
what.
right.
Yeah.
I got
You're
you.
typically going to get away, you being a great team, you're going to get away with a lot of stuff. I remember in our Dallas series in 05 against the Mavericks, Jeff Van Gundy had one of the biggest fines in NBA history. I think somebody has overturned that, but he had one of the biggest fines in NBA history because he were talking and complaining about how the refs was reffing against Yao Ming, which he was getting in foul trouble every single game. I don't know if it was an agenda.
That's for a Cousins podcast. We'll leave that over there. Do you guys subscribe to the idea that officiating changes throughout the playoffs or in certain games? Like, how do you guys measure that as players who have been through that as Hall of Famers that have?
From my experience, it does. I think the referees are locked into points of emphasis going into the playoffs. I think they study just like everybody else study. They look at the game, they look at the season, they say, okay, this team is a physical team, so we're going to give them some leeway to play physical, but we're not going to let them go too far. And I just think this series, the Lakers, OKC, because they the champs, right? They're going to get away with some little fouls here, some grabs that the average team is just not going to get.
I would say this. The Lakers can get away with that tonight.
You think so?
Yeah, because JJ put everybody
all
on
out
notice.
there.
So tonight, it's the Lakers' turn to go out there, be physical, and play that way.
This is mental warfare.
Absolutely. That's exactly what this
JJ know what he's doing. JJ know what he's doing.
Oh, God. Listen, SGA said the way that basketball works, the more physical team that imposes their will is the team that gets the win. That's what OKC is always trying to be, and they'll be looking to take a 3-0 lead in LA against LeBron. And now the guys who are going to call Game 3 with the Pistons up 2-0. We got Noah Eagle, Grant Hill, and Robbie Hummel. Guys, how do you see it from sitting courtside?
Well, we see it right now that Rocket Arena is going to have to be exactly that, rocking here this afternoon, because the Cavaliers have been great at home this postseason. In fact, they haven't lost at home, but they also haven't won on the road. And so for Cleveland, it feels like they've got a little extra confidence. And normally you say that the series doesn't start until the road team wins. It feels like in this case, it has to be the home team that has to start the series today.
Well, 100%. Cleveland, they're going to have to really step up and play better. There's been a theme during this series thus far. Cleveland digs a hole in the first quarter, works hard to get back in it, and they don't close strong down the stretch. But they're going to need to get off to a good start, and their stars have to be stars. They have to be the best players in the fourth quarter. That's Donovan Mitchell, and James Harden has to play better as well.
He's talking about stars, and Robbie, it always feels like the hardest jump to take is from player to all-star to eventually superstar. But Cade Cunningham, right in front of our eyes, is turning into
Well,
that.
and speaking of the fourth quarter, he's been the best player in this series in these fourth quarters. He's been phenomenal all playoff series long, but he's getting a good amount of help. Even though Duran has had his struggles, how good has Duncan Robinson been? How good has Tobias Harris been? How about Dennis Jenkins? They've had a bunch of guys really step forward. The defense has been consistent, but the shooting for Detroit, 14 made threes in game 2. We'll see if that travels here on the road. What's going to be a tough environment this afternoon.
Tough environment. Cleveland's going to have to play into it as much as they possibly can. They've got to find a way to get into this series, make it 2-1, and not fall down to that deadly 3-0 disadvantage. We'll see what happens. Tip-off straight ahead, guys.
All right, appreciate it, guys. Have an excellent call. That's going to be Game 1 of our playoff slate. That tip-off is set for about 3:12 Eastern time in Cleveland. And then our slate's going to continue later tonight, though. You get SGA and the Thunder. They will be taking on the Lakers. They've got a 2-0 lead, but they're headed to LA. That coverage of that game will start at 8:30 Eastern.